everybody, and welcome to
Hi,
Life Coach Institute, CLCI Live.
and welcome to another lovely day.
A new month as well.
A new month, new topics, new things.
is.
So,
New month.
I think before we do anything, let's remind everybody out there to join in the conversation. We want to hear from you. Sorry. So please feel free to hop into that chat. Talk to us. Let us know what is going on and what you're thinking. If you have any questions. And then introducing our topic. This month, we were doing something a little different. We wanted to feature coaching skills, and more specifically, some of our people who are coaches, their favorite skills or skills they would like to highlight, maybe even skills they want to work on, but skills that they think are important in the coaching space. And so we're going to introduce a new one selected by different staff each week. And this week we have Mike with us, and Mike has chosen our skill. So
Yes.
I'll hand it over.
Thank you, Brooke. Thank you so much for that. And I love how you said highlight or even work on, because I think it's a skill that all coaches should continue to work on, as it is very important. But yeah, so the skill we want to really highlight today and for this live is this amazing skill of listening, and not just listening, but how it applies to coaching. The core competencies are out there, and just beyond core competency 3 and seeing what it is that the client wants to focus on, but just the skill of listening as it applies to coaching, the coaching conversation, as well as conversations, I think is a subtle art that we overlook sometimes. And I think it's important. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. And then how we listen as well, which can kind of go into some other core competencies. Are we listening with the motive? How do we listen? I think that's the biggest part of that as well. So the skill of listening and how we listen is what we're focusing on.
Very nice. So I'm hearing you say listening, how we're listening. I know there is this idea of bias and listening without bias that we have highlighted. So just quickly speaking into that, before we go into these sort of coaching demos, what are some ways bias might come up in a coaching session for our coaches?
I think one of the first things we talk about that, right? Bias, it's based off of experience and what you feel, what you think, and everything that's gotten you to this very point, this moment, right? So when we are listening, right, you are typically responding or looking to respond or even question as it pertains to coaching, how you look at a certain thing from your perspective. And so when we're listening with bias, what happens is now it's hard to not lead or assume if we're listening with the bias. Like if we don't turn that down or learn to just train it, I guess, because it's going to be there. But again, that's why I say how we're listening. So I think in order to not put yourself in the situation and keep it about the client, that's where we want to make sure that we're working on that skill and not listening with bias.
For me, as you're sharing, one word that comes up is the word assumption. And I think that as a coach, we can easily possibly jump to assumptions about our clients and do that based on maybe our own personal experience, our own biases, our own whatever it may be. And we may have moments where we assume we know something and we may not know that thing. And so I think that's a big piece that comes into this is sort of checking that idea that we know what we know and stepping into our client's world.
Well, yeah. I think a lot of the times a student will think that's what people are attracted to them for, is their opinions and their take on a perspective. And I think that's unfortunate mistake, that if they decide to have that buy-in that only their opinion matters, and that's the only reason that people come to them. That's not the only reason they come to you, because you have compassion and empathy. There's words attached with that. And then, like Brooke was saying, those assumptions on what you think ought to happen in that person's world kind of sounds bad right there. What you think ought to happen in that person's world. That's the mistake. There are people who say, well, I have to tell them. We've had a couple of people come through, and I've got to tell them what to do. They won't know what to do if I don't tell them. Okay, we're not doing an emergency kind of situation, where somebody's life is at stake. Clearly, we're in a coaching model. Coaching model means, as we've been speaking about, as Mike has said, means we're going to hear them. We're going to listen to them. We're going to find that space to make sure that they hear themselves as well.
And I think even more subtly, even if we are not giving them answers, assuming that we might know what they're thinking in any way, I think that can come up very easily for us as coaches, is assuming that what they're thinking, or assuming that they may be make the same decisions as us, or choose the same paths as us, or be thinking the same way as we thought when we were in a similar situation. And I have been surprised more times than I can possibly count by those moments where in my head I think, oh, this is the answer that I'm gonna get, like they're gonna answer like this, and I find out that no, they answer in a way that is completely contrary to what I thought was going to come out of their mouths, or just something completely different, and I'm surprised. But I love that too, because it really highlights how we can all be the same and go through the same things, but we all respond to them in very different ways, and in ways that are very personal to us. So I think that this idea of that is a learning that I have had for sure throughout the coaching process. And it's one of those ways where it's like, I'm not fixing in this moment. I'm not giving answers, but what I am doing is quietly in my head thinking, I know what my client is going to say or think, and then I love when I'm surprised when that is not the case. So,
and Brooke, even on top of that too, is assuming we know what they need, right? Because it kind of goes back to what Lisa said. Like a lot of times too, that can affect the value that we feel we have as a coach. Like, well, they're coming to me for me to tell them. Like, I need to tell them. If I don't, then what value am I? What is my worth as a coach? So what both of y'all said is just like, yeah, that's the part, because we assume a lot of times too, we know what they need to hear in that moment.
Yeah, that could be a bias that a coach potentially has, which is that they need to provide answers and that the client needs that. And so that's a really important bias to check before you step into the coaching space. The client is viewed as whole and resilient and resourceful, and there's not many places in our world where people are stepping into a space where they're held in that capacity, and that's a really important place to hold the space for the client.
We can't hear you.
Muted.
Still muted.
I was pulling something up. I was like, ooh, because one of the things that we have done today is we have tasked everybody here to come into this stream being willing and able to be coached, and to be willing and able to be a client. So I almost want to put on a random choosy wheel who's going to end up being the client, so that we just don't know, because I think we always kind of defer in who's going to be our coach. But instead, what I will do is just, because I could be for the client. So who's ready to be a client? Who has something? Does everybody have something?
Raise your hand, Jen.
Everybody but Jen. Okay, everybody but Jen and Mike. It looks like. In that case, Jen, think of a number from 1 to 4, And I don't know if we're all have to pick a different number though, wouldn't we? And I don't know if that's going to work. We'll see whoever gets closest. So 1 to 100. And then we will all say a number, and whoever's number is closest to the number you are, will get to be our client.
I wrote my number down.
Okay. I did not, but I will just be honest. So, Lisa.
Can Jen write the number that she's thinking of down?
Yeah, Jen's got to write.
Yeah,
her
that would be
number.
good. Yeah, at
That's
least for
good.
Jen to
She
write
doesn't
her.
snipe us.
Okay.
All right. So, Lisa.
60.
Okay. All right. I think I might know what that is. Jerome.
3.
Wow. Okay. Anthony.
1.
Price is right. Price is right.
Nicely done. And I had 73 down in mine.
Okay.
73
So-
is one of my lucky numbers.
So whoever got closest,
Will be our
wait, how
client.
is this working?
Whoever got closest will be our client.
Well, Anthony intentionally tried to not be the client.
What do you mean
Fair.
intentionally? Jerome set me up.
That's my favorite number. That's my favorite number. I was going to go with it.
Okay.
So 5.
5.
Wow.
7
Yeah.
from our
So
point of view.
Jerome is definitely our closest.
I would have had to be that client because I was going to choose 1 either way. You saved me.
And then Mike, I'm going to have you, because I'm not going to have you coach in the first session. Maybe we will have you coach in a second session, but I would really like for your information and feedback as an observer. So Mike, why don't you pick a number, and the rest of us will choose a different number. This time, let's do from 100 to 200.
All right, already got my number. Already got my number written down.
And all of the rest of us will pick a number, and that's how we'll decide who's going to be coach. Is everybody nervous? Are you all nervous? So Mike's got his number. Who wants to go first and say their number this time?
I'll go.
We'll let Anthony go first after his last shenanigans.
Yeah.
177.
Okay, 177. I'll
Fixed for it.
I was going to choose 130.
Interesting number.
137 will be my number.
Okay.
I'm
I'm
at
choosing,
125.
and I'm choosing 40.
That's
Oh, wait.
between
It's
100 and
200.
200.
I thought it was between 1 and 200.
No.
We switched it up for this one.
She switched.
140.
Okay, there we go.
All right.
And Jerome.
I only came prepared with one topic. So does that mean
No, this is
Wait,
for
Jerome
coach.
can't
Yeah,
catch
Jerome-
himself.
Well,
he's the
Jerome's the
client.
client. He's the
Jerome's the
client.
client. He
Yeah.
can't
Yeah,
be in.
so it's over.
Jerome's the client.
So-
So, all right, what's the number?
So the number would be 134 because the original number was 34.
134, which
So it'd
means
be
Jen is
134.
Jen is our coach.
Gotcha.
Right? She chose 140. I think that is by far
Wait,
the
what did
closest.
Lisa?
Lisa? What did you choose?
125.
125.
No, she's
So it
still
was
closer.
actually be
It's 9 away versus 6 away. So 6 away wins. Yeah.
all right.
Jen is our coach.
Okay.
You can check my math later if you want. All right. The rest of us are going to turn off our cameras and mute ourselves and let these two coach away. We will see you guys. Also, roughly for timing, we're looking for about, I wouldn't go longer than 15 minutes if we can. What I'll do is pop in the private chat if it starts to get to that point that we need to pause it. Well, I'm going to say it will be 15 minutes no matter what. So no matter what, we'll hop back on at 4:35. Okay.
Okay, Jerome, it's just you and I
How you doing?
in a
Jeff?
private space. How are you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Excited to explore this topic a little bit, actually.
Okay, so what is the topic on your mind?
So I have been trying to get in some sort of alternate form of cardio other than like the treadmill. And I'm not sure exactly what direction to go in. I've thought about like maybe some sort of like boxing class. One that's really high on my list is maybe getting into like flag football, but that would require me to do it in season. And I'm not sure if that's like something that would be necessarily consistent from now throughout the entire year.
So what's showing up as important for this topic now?
So have fun. The treadmill is not fun. I do enjoy going on runs, but it's hot right now, so I'm usually just inside in the gym. And that gets pretty boring after about a half a mile for me. I'm just ready to get off and start pumping some iron or something like that.
So what would be, what would be an outcome for our short session today that would give you some value?
Maybe a decision in which form or what form of alternate cardio that I want to go with.
So I'm
Because it's
hearing,
really, I think it's really between two at the moment. It's trying out, because I have a free couple classes to do boxing, which I have yet to redeem. And then with the flag football, I've actually reached out to pretty much the commissioner, the organizer of the league, and I pretty much just ghosted him every time he's texting me back for not even sure what reason. So maybe some clarity around those reasons too, as far as why I haven't proceeded.
so I'm hearing you're wanting to make a decision, and then you're also wanting some clarity around not texting back. Am I getting that?
Not putting that foot forward to actually join that boxing class, or maybe register myself for a flag football league.
So what feels right to start with?
Let's go with the flag football, because I think I lean towards that. I love football, so something that I can imagine myself having a lot of fun in. Boxing's new to me, so that one's a little scary. Never had any type of training as far as boxing is concerned, but it does seem interesting. Like I said, I had a friend who gave me 2 free classes, and it seems like an opportunity that would be nice to at least entertain. So probably flag football. Let's start there.
So tell me about flag football.
Well, I do really. I know it's not completely year round, but I know football season is coming up, so it will be definitely around the corner if I do decide to do it. I haven't looked into any dates or anything like that, but I do know that's just I miss the competitiveness of just competing physically, as opposed to, again, when I'm on the treadmill and I'm kind of just me, myself, and I, and again I'm bored after about half a mile, and it just doesn't give me that push that I kind of want to get in when it comes to trying to get something out of cardio.
So I'm hearing missing the competitive part of it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I think that would. I played in college, and it didn't matter how tired I was. I always pushed myself, and I kind of missed that push to give me that extra ounce of effort to kind of reach my cardio goals, because I'm kind of just sitting at on the treadmill right now, run until I'm tired. There's no real like goal when it comes to an organized sport. There's a goal to win, to not get beaten, things like that. So it just helps when it comes to pushing myself to a limit that I want to get past, and then also just honestly setting cardio goals. I don't really have those at the moment.
You mentioned fun earlier. I'm wondering how fun might tie into the flag football.
Fun? Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. I feel like my life is maybe lacking some fun sometimes. Um, I've reached out to some friends actually, so that they to gauge their interest in maybe joining the league with me, because I think that'd make it a little bit more entertaining. But no bites. It would just be me, myself, and I, which I think is also part of the reason why I haven't really pressed forward. It'd be nice to do it with at least one other person that I know. So I'm not just going in there blind and joining teams that, you know, I have no idea who people are. But then again, that'd be a nice space for me to make some new friends. So it's a good, maybe a good idea to try that.
What's happening? Because I'm seeing something on your face there that looks different.
Yeah, I think I really do want to do this. Boxing is just kind of something that, again, it was just an opportunity that presented itself to me through. I don't know. I miss football. That's what it is. I miss going out and competing, and catching the ball and running on grass.
Is anything becoming more clear? You were looking for some clarity.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure I want to do the flag football as opposed to boxing. At least give it a try before I go with boxing.
Is there anything to explore with the boxing today?
Nope. I think I would have to fail at football first before I moved over into the boxing space, probably.
What else is left here on this topic for you, if anything?
Maybe giving myself, I mean, I can't really explain any further than I can, but I can set myself maybe some goals to hit if I want this to actually happen.
What would that look like?
Well, first off, finding out when the league starts. I know, again, football season's coming up, so it should be pretty soon. Definitely not, I don't think, right now because it's been so hot, but I think in the next month there should probably be a league in my city, in Riverside. So something that I would have to do some research on. Maybe reply to the guy who I ghosted, and that'd probably be a really easy way to get some information. Other than that, that's really all I can think of doing at the moment. If I wanted to set a goal, that'd be the first one, because without that information, I couldn't really proceed any further than that.
So when you think about doing that, I mean, how does that feel?
Fun. It feels, I hope the guy hasn't lost my number. But if he did, I can still reach out to some website. I know the league exists, so I can get in touch with somebody through a website. Also scary, because I don't want to go out there and be terrible. It's been a long time. 4 or 5 years since I've played competitively, so I don't want to be out of shape. I know, I mean, I still throw the ball around with my nephew and stuff like that, but also I want to be decent. I don't want to just show up and just do cardio too. That's I want to be actually competitive. You know, I don't want to just show out and go through the motions.
So I'm hearing that it serves two intentions, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it hits the cardio goal and it creates that competition, that competitiveness that you miss.
Correct.
Is there anything in the way, possibly, of you going forward with this?
Time, maybe. Potentially. Again, I don't know what times, you know, these games are going to be organized at. Whether it's going to be like a Friday evening or Saturday evening. Sundays I like to use as a rest day, but I think this would be something that I would kind of it'd be a good excuse to maybe flip a day from Sunday as my rest day, maybe put it on Saturday or something like that. But yeah, the time commitment, it's just a little fuzzy, so that would be the only thing. But then again, I mean, it's that shouldn't prevent me from at least, you know, exploring my options. So nothing right now, actually, nothing. Kind of want to check right now mid-session, but we're not going to do that.
So nothing will prevent you from exploring this further. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what's left to get clear on for you to take action?
Well, as far as just exploring, the league start date, things like that, when they're going to be playing. Nothing. I think it's just taking that step to actually register that might be the next hurdle for me.
Earlier, you had said something about not wanting to be terrible when you get out there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's a hurdle that I would have to make sure that I surpass too. I think I'd have to up my conditioning in the gym before I went out on the field to actually be halfway decent. Um, because I used to consistently run on a very regular basis, but my knees couldn't take it anymore. So I've been kind of lowering that cardio. Um, but I've been focusing on like leg shrimp training and stuff like that. So I think if I up my cardio, it'd be fine now. Um, so yeah, I would have to definitely first kind of kill myself in the gym a little bit, push myself without that competitiveness in front of me, um, so that I could be competitive when it does come to actually registering.
So tell me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds like you won't feel ready or good about going out there unless you do more in the gym beforehand.
Yeah, just at least on in the realm of cardio for sure. I'm not sure that I can run back to back plays and be competitive with the level of cardio that I have in me right now.
What's coming up as you're hearing this part of the conversation?
For me, honestly, I won't know until I get out there. Actually, I could be saying all this as just maybe as like an excuse to really give me a reason to not actually register. Um, and I'll never know until I get out. Who knows? Maybe my cardio level isn't as bad as I think it is. I know it's nowhere near as good as it was when I was in college and a teenager, but maybe it's not as terrible as I think it is. So could be just an excuse I'm kind of putting up so that way I find another reason not to join this next season.
So how will you find out?
Just have to register and go find out. See, maybe I can. I'm not sure exactly how things are organized before the league starts, but I'm sure there's teams um, that practice before things start getting going. Really, maybe reaching out to one of those teams. I wouldn't know how to do that, but maybe there's a forum or something like that on the website where guys are trying to get a team together. I'm not sure.
So what do you think your next step is here?
I just got to hop on their website again, really, and express interest, wait for that information to come back to me, and really just move forward with it, I think, regardless of how I feel as far as my cardio level is concerned. At least set a hard date to get out there and find out.
Do you want to set that hard date today, or is
I
that?
wish I could if I knew when the league started.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't know. So I can set a hard date to check that information, which I can do that today.
What's that hard date then?
How about 6 p.m. today?
And how do you want to hold yourself accountable?
I will let you guys know in the chat,
Okay.
CLCI live channel, what day the league starts.
Okay. So when we started, you wanted to make a decision and you wanted to get some clarity. How did that go for you?
I think I got some clarity, and I've definitely got a decision for sure. I'm not gonna. Don't even really want to explore the boxing option again, unless this doesn't work out for whatever reason. I can't tell the future, but I do want an alternate form of cardio for sure. I think definitely because I just miss the competitive nature of competing. I don't know. I miss competing physically. It's fun, so I've got clarity around that too. as to why I want to do something other than just run on treadmill.
Is there anything else for you on this topic today?
No, I think I'm good. I know what I have to do, and I know what I want to do.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
On that note, we'll bring
welcome back
everybody
in,
back
everyone. Can I just say, I was so calm. Like, I'm not even nervous coaching anymore. Do you guys know how much of growth that is for me? Like, that's huge.
Not only that, you coached in front of thousands of people.
And it's out there.
You'll be there forever. So maybe you should feel nervous.
No, I'm just
Oh
done
my
being
gosh.
nervous. Like, I just trust the process so much, and I don't ever expect perfection from myself. I stumble and fumble words all the time, and I don't even care. I just keep flowing, and I just give myself so much grace and permission to just be, and that's what allows it to feel so comfortable. It's crazy. Yeah.
I need that blurb. I need that blurb right there for class. Jerome. Like, seriously, because that what you just said, Jen, is what I always say is encouragement to the coaches. Like, literally, just we even have a slide that talks about that, right? Trust the process, but then
Yeah.
give yourself grace, because there's no perfect session, because there's no perfect human. So
We should put that on a shirt and sell it.
And a
Jerome,
mug. I want the mug.
Oh my goodness.
Jerome, how did you feel being the client?
Nervous in the beginning because I didn't know whether that topic was worthy or not, honestly. But I got some real answers out of it.
Any
and
topic
I
is
appreciate
worthy of being coached on.
All topics are worthy.
facts. That's true. That's true.
So circling
you.
back to our
Thank you, Jerome, for
Yes.
being the client. We appreciate the vulnerability. And Jen, for your coaching and your vulnerability in the process. Thank you both for doing that.
Absolutely.
So in watching that, and we are circling back to this topic of how to coach without bias, or how to listen without bias, how to listen without bias. Which do we want to talk a little bit of? Let's talk about how ways that maybe we observed that listening without bias was happening.
Yeah, I think just starting out, right? Just making sure that you are getting insight on what the client's goal is, right? And one of the things I wrote down too is it's important to ask for clarity. That's part of the way how we squash down what we think when you ask for that clarity, and lean into your curiosity as well. There was a point in there where Jen said, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Or am I hearing this correctly? That's that languaging that you want to make sure that you're not leaning into what you think or assuming and making assumptions. I think there was one time where Jen even said that, I don't want to assume. So I think that's part of what it's all about, listening without that bias. And also the great use of closed-ended questions, that Jen used, because I say that because a lot of times, coaches and when people take the class, they think we say no closed-ended questions. No, it's just the use of it, and we want to keep things open more. But I think for the most part, that was really what we want to do and how it should look when we listen without bias.
I think there was a lot of opportunity for, unintentional small bias to come up. I mean, if any of us have done cardio before, we can automatically be thinking, oh, I like this cardio. I like that cardio. I like that. You know what I mean? All these things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you notice, Jen at no point leaned into one direction or the other. She allowed Jerome to make those decisions. And I think that also, she used neutral languaging when she asked her questions. So asking, instead of saying, maybe something that will subtly or indirectly sway your client one direction or the other, she stayed in a very neutral space. She might have heard in Jerome him leaning towards the football, but she didn't tell him to go that way because she heard that. Instead, she asked him, where he wanted to go. She asked him what the solutions would be, and you might very well be correct in when hearing Jerome say starting to lean towards the football and away from boxing, but she's not going to put those words into his mouth, and she's not going to ask questions that are biased toward the direction that she thinks he wants to go, which is something that can easily be done and inadvertently be done. I mean, I've done it. I think we've all probably done it at some point or another, unintentionally and without realizing it, or even maybe we realize it right after we've said it. And I think that Jen did a wonderful job of staying in neutral languaging throughout that session, and neutral with her curiosity as well.
Yeah.
And now that we're done with coaching, do you have a biased opinion on this subject?
Wait, I want to check more into the coaching before we go into that, Anthony, if we may. The other thing I want to make sure is highlighted is that she didn't give a dissertation as she was reflecting back with what she heard. A lot of new students, they're practicing and they're hearing and understanding where that client is coming from or sharing. That the piece that they tend to do is just give a paragraph back.
Funny.
Jen kept it short, sweet, to the point, to what he was saying. It was understood. The flow was there. It was present. It was a short session, but it was quick and pretty much hit all those boxes.
Funny you bring this up, because that's going to be what my chosen skill is how to be concise in coaching, like practicing short and sweet in our sessions. So I think that's fantastic that you brought that up, because that will dovetail into one of our coaching skills this month. Will be certainly what I am picking as mine. Nice. And something I still am working on, right? That's still something that I can be more verbose than I need to be at one time or another. So, Anthony, what was your question?
Oh, mine was a silly question.
But it's a good question because it's valid, I think.
As you were in the
coaching
session,
that was in my mind.
Rome, do you feel that you might have a bias towards that, and are you regulating that bias as you were having that discussion?
So in this particular topic, what kind of came up for me was, should I go deeper on why he wants to, change his cardio or do more cardio? And then I was like, no, I'm just going to coach. I chose actively and consciously to just coach the problem. For this 15-minute session, I thought just, we're going to be straightforward here. I could have gone deeper, and that could have unearthed a completely different conversation. So I was very aware of that. And then I also heard him pretty quickly lean in towards, saying no to the boxing. And I did check back in. Is there anything that needs to be explored there? I don't have a bias at this point, but I need to make sure that I'm not leaving anything on the table for him. This is really for his learning. And so he said no. I didn't have a bias, to be honest with you. I was incredibly unattached, and I just stayed with him. And I trusted him. I trusted him to navigate the conversation.
Well, first the funny question, then the serious question. Actually, first we'll do the serious, and then I'll do the funny one. So I think that is something that's super important, and it's something that has come up even with mentoring. The fact that she went back and asked into the boxing again. Is there anything else in that space we need to explore? Because I have blindly followed my client and not realized that I was ignoring the original contract intention that was set. And if the original intention was to explore the two and come to a decision, I am not doing my full job as a coach to not circle back and ask about that boxing, even if the client has started to lean more towards one direction. So it was wonderful that Jen did that, and a testament to a coaching skill set that's been practiced. Now, the funny question, what would you choose, Jen? Boxing or flag football?
I mean, I actually really could relate to the desire for competition and stuff. So like I would lean towards the flag football personally.
I don't understand how punching another person in the face and being punched also isn't competitive, but
Well, it is.
sure.
It certainly
Well,
could be.
I just wouldn't be as competitive at it because I've never.
I would choose boxing, but I don't want to box another person. I want to learn the skill to do the bag.
Lisa, we can do boxing when we come over.
Okay.
Well, look, Mike Tyson said everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So-
Yeah, I don't want to be punched. I don't want to be punched.
I want one other thing that came up when y'all were talking about that and what Lisa added for sure with that coaching. One other thing, this is huge because a lot of times with coaches, we're people. We want to help people and give them that joy. Sometimes the best form of validation is acknowledgement. And Jen did something beautiful where it's like, I'm noticing something there. Jen didn't say, that made you happy. Tell me more about why you're happy right now. Jen just asks, there was something happen. Tell me what's happening for you. And Jerome went into more deeper into it of why it makes me think about the competitiveness. She could have easily said, that smile, I can see that you're happy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Sharing without attaching. That's one of the core competencies, evoking awareness, but not adding what you think it is. So I think that was beautiful as well. So yeah, that was it. Listening without bias.
And what's funny when you mentioned that moment, I actually thought in my head, he looks excited. He looks happy. Like I heard those words and I was like, how can I say that in a way that is more neutral? So I had to kind of slow into that moment and say, I'm noticing, I'm not quite sure, something's happening on your face. Like I didn't know how to phrase it. I just was looking for neutral and I found some words that worked.
It worked.
Well, it worked too because he trusted you, right? I'm putting words out here that you can correct me, Jerome.
Yes, correct her if she's wrong, Jerome.
So the words work because he also trusts you. So he was in the flow with you in that process. The other thing I wanted to more elaborate on is that your questions were simple. They didn't need to be these elaborate, well thought out, perfect in every way questions, right? They were just simple. They just followed his lead. They just did the job that needed to be done in the moment.
I want to check in with Jerome and ask, at any point, did you feel a sense of bias or guidance? Like what did from your perspective, did anything come up for you?
From Jen?
Yeah, or from Jen, or from your interpretation, from like on a experience level.
No, I didn't feel any bias at all.
What did not having a bias there do for you as the client?
It allowed me to clearly think and get out what I really wanted to get out, not be afraid of judgment from Jen. I didn't feel like that at all. Jen's not one to be very judgmental anyways, I know, by working with her. So
depends on the day.
I guess, yeah.
It's like, I have evidence to the contrary.
But yeah, she made it really easy for me to be comfortable and to get to the answers that I wanted.
So a potentially bad experience would be if, Jerome said in the beginning, I'm not really sure. I don't want to do this treadmill, essentially, right? I don't want to do that. It's boring. I don't get anything much from it. I want to get off. If I was a bad coach, I'd go, have you thought about jujitsu? Can I even say the word? Jujitsu? No, I can't say the word. But you know what I'm saying? Or have you thought about, right? A lot of coaches think that that's what our job is to come in and tell Jerome,
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I'm sorry for interrupting. But also, it can even be simpler than that. As Jerome is sharing about the treadmill, if you are reacting like, like, or like
Right.
giving him that.
Oh
like,
yeah, me too. Oh,
get it.
treadmill
I don't like the
sucks.
treadmill either.
Right?
Absolutely. The
It
fillers.
seems like, it seems like we're just agreeing, right? Like that's what everybody does. It's not a big deal. It's not harmful, but we have created a bias in the room against treadmilling against. So if now Jerome starts to go down this exploration of maybe, and we get to an emotional thing, and then maybe it turns out to not be about the treadmill. And it turns out that somehow he actually does want to do the treadmill, but there's something else going on, blah, blah, blah. We have created this preconception because we're reacting by thinking we're agreeing and doing a good thing, that now he knows we think the treadmill sucks too, but he now doesn't maybe think the treadmill sucks anymore, and now there's going to be this little bit of a disconnect because we've shared that.
Hold on to that for 2 seconds. It's the same thing in a relationship. When somebody comes into you and says, I broke up with this yucky person, and you go, yeah, they were yucky, and they get back together, it's the same thing. Keep going. All right, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you could also go in the opposite listening direction and just like take the first thing you hear, which is the treadmill, and be like, well, okay, so how do you, Jerome, make being on the treadmill more enjoyable and more fun?
Yes, exactly. Because I could pull from my experience of making running more fun and try to give that to him, but it's like that's not what coaching is. I trust that he can find his own answer.
And that's also not what he asked for, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that would throw me way off because I enjoy running. I just hate running on the treadmill. Running is fun, but
I'm just gonna say I hate it.
And it
too.
would have come off as had I done anything like that, Jerome, it would have been like, I know more, I know better. It's just a complete energy shift in the dynamic when I take on that role instead of being a thought partner. And if I shift out of the thought partner role, I can know that I'm going to break trust with the client, because in that moment, like you said, you would have been thrown off.
So you trusted your client to be the problem solver. You did not, as the coach, need to be the problem solver.
Right.
Yeah. And it's something I heard in a class. A coach said this, and it's changed me forever. And I say it in class sometimes, and I'm like, wow, because when I heard it, it stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, more reason why I don't want to do it in a coaching session, and I want to avoid ever doing it again. And they simply said, advice without permission is abuse. I was like, wow. To apply that to coaching, like, wow. It goes back to what Jen just shared. It's almost like a disrespect. Like, I don't trust you to be able to know what's right for you. Like, let me tell you what's right in this moment. And Jen, that's why when Anthony asked that earlier, that's what I was thinking about bias. Like, is running coming up in your mind, and how you deal with running and all of that, and in your process and journey with that, is that happening? And that's what I want to say to any coach that's watching. It will happen. You'll be tested. Things will be very relatable to you. And so what we're talking about, listening with a biased ear, it's important, and it's a skill. Back to what Jen said earlier, extend yourself grace. It's not about being perfect, but over time. And that's why I love what you shared, Jen, when we finished, about you just trusted yourself, and you talked about how you feel better in your journey from where you started. And so I'm glad everyone is able to see that.
I think that we only have 5 minutes left. So our official timekeeper was reminding us, with regard to, wow, I lost my train of thought, you guys. It was right there and it's gone. Like, it was right there, and it was important, and it was relevant, and it left me.
You were the timekeeper.
No, it was prior to that. That was just, there's notice.
Okay.
I noticed we were running out of time before I said this thought, and then gone it went. So what were you talking about right before that? We were talking about, what were you talking about, Mike, right before
Jen's
that?
journey, like
Jen's
sharing
journey.
that. And because this idea of like how it can creep in your experiences. And when Jen shared about how she felt comfortable and just trust the process, and knowing that she's come so far.
I know what it was. And so mine was a callback to something Jen said earlier. She said that she chose specifically not to coach the person, but to coach the problem. But I think there was moments in there where you were coaching the person, when you were asking how that feels, how he feels about that, how the feelings and those things that came up. And I think that although we knew we only had 15 minutes, you still were able to get to moments of coaching the person within that as well. So
that's fair. Yeah.
Also, Jen didn't skip right to process. After Jerome said those things, Jen talked about the flag football. So that is the person, because she didn't go right to, okay, so what could you do to that? Came well into the section, even though it was short. So that still goes back to that. It's not process. It's not just a problem. It's about what has you here now and what's coming up for you.
Can I ask Jerome, what could have been more useful, if anything, for you in that conversation?
As we're kind of like breaking this down, my mind's kind of racing on, I think we could have gone for like another 15, 20 minutes, because my mind's now thinking about, is it that I want to increase the level of cardio that I'm doing, or is it because I just want to go out and have a little bit more fun? So I guess in turn, some more time would be beneficial, useful.
Jerome is going to have to schedule another session. We're going to have to circle back to this topic.
We'll keep using Jerome for every single live we do.
Follow up.
You guys will follow me to my championship game all the way through.
Follow up number 32.
Going to the Olympics.
Yeah, we should start a series with like somebody and just see how far we can take.
How far we can push them. To
coaching somebody to the Olympics, even if it takes, you know.
But that's good. I'm glad Jerome is sharing that, because it just goes to show, like, had we been in a full session, there was more there that was starting to like come up just in giving him 15 minutes of space to talk about it. Yeah.
But the other thing you can be assured is Jerome's going to go, I was going to say go home. He is home, but go back and contemplate this some more to see what some of his answers are. So even if we did meet, let's say you did meet with him next week and ask him what he'd like to talk about, it might not be this topic. He might have done the work himself. That's part of the process as well.
That is so true. It's like there's like, it's like you peel back one little layer, you get some answers, and then you're like, the brain starts going. You're like, boom, 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 and all these things come up, and it gets like, it's really awesome. That's why it's one of the reasons I love coaching so much, because it's like I get to learn about myself, and I keep learning and I learn more about myself, and there's just something very neat about getting to know, you know, who I am, the reason I do things, the way I do things, and how I'd like to change them, and that I can change them. There's just something very cool about that. So for me,
and there's another layer of trust, which we're talking about now, which is trusting the client's time in between sessions, that there is more that is going to happen for the client in between. It's like, I like to think of it so silly, like a Jenga tower, and I like tapped on some of the blocks, and like he's gonna maybe go, oh, we're gonna pull that one out. Like he's gonna do that work on his own in between the sessions, just because we did a little tapping in the session.
I like the visual.
Coaching is Jenga.
Let's make a slide. A little Jenga slide animation. All right. That is our time, y'all. Next week, we will be back with another Coaching Skills 101, where we'll be diving into some of the coaching skills that we all want to highlight here. Tune on in. Which one? We won't tell you yet. So excited to do this, and excited to keep doing these short demos. I think we can do maybe a 20-minute session next time. I think we have enough time to do that. Okay. So we're learning. All right. Awesome. Bye.